Kristine Beckerle is a Yemen researcher at Human Rights Watch. She joins us live on Skype from New York, rather, to talk more about our top story, the impending famine in Yemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Explain to us the gravity, the emergency, dire situation that is happening in Yemen right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all kind of living in a world at this point it sometimes feels as though there's too many disasters to sort of contend with. But Yemen has the very sad honor of being the world's largest humanitarian crisis, experiencing the world's worst ever recorded cholera epidemic. When we're talking about, if you just want numbers, you've got 7 million people on the brink of famine, the vast majority of the country reliant on some form of humanitarian aid. The UN says a child under 5 dies every 10 minutes. So it's very hard to really make people every 10 minutes. So it's very hard to make people understand really how horrendous the situation in Yemen already was before the events of this weekend and before the Saudi-led coalition decided to even further restrict the ability of aid and food and medicines to get into the country.
Okay, so what can be done? Even if the public understands, it's much more than just the public understanding. It's those who can actually do something about this. What can be done about this? What is being done about this?
Well, from our end, listen, the UN Security Council met today to talk about the humanitarian situation in Yemen. And what we said, which I feel very strongly about, is that the UN Security Council already has a mechanism for sanctioning people in Yemen who are committing gross violations. And one of those violations is the obstruction of humanitarian assistance. So what we're saying is, okay, UN Security Council, you already have means in place to make it very clear to the parties to this conflict, be it the Saudi-led coalition or the Houthi Saleh forces, that if they obstruct aid, there will be clear and concrete consequences. And it's far past time they did so, because you have people in the governments of the US or the UK or France sort of issuing rote recitations of concern, but not actually following up on that. So it's not enough for the UK or the US to say we're worried about famine in Yemen. At this point, it's up to the members of the UN Security Council, and particularly those allied with Saudi Arabia, to be using all the leverage at their disposal to be pushing these people to actually make changes to the ways in which they're fighting this war, and certainly for them to stop impeding aid and access, again, as we saw sort of very dramatically in terms of the Saudis' announcement on Monday that they were going to try and close all entry points to Yemen.
Kristine Beckerle, thank you very much for joining us, Human Rights Watch.
Thank you.
The UN's labor organization has closed an investigation